Scott Moon is an almost 25-year industry veteran. He is the founder and owner of Salon S.O.S, which is an industry-focused digital marketing research and service company. Scott brings marketing education and his industry experience to help salon professionals increase their success in their business. Today, we're going to dig into specific topics of online booking and the pre-consultation. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes, and I am your host. And today, I'm with Scott Moon. How you doing today, Scott?
I am great. It's a great day to be alive, buddy.
Absolutely. Well, anybody who didn't listen or watch the last conversation we had, that's a great chance to get to know Scott, where he came from, and what he's doing in a lot more like higher level detail about the things that he does. And so I highly encourage you to go and watch or listen to that. Today, two things that we talked about in that conversation were online booking and pre-consult. Would you just give everybody who didn't hear or listen to that a little high-level explanation of why that's important and what it is about that that's important to you that you believe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to just think about general consumer behavior, right? And if we go outside of the salon industry and just think of, other industries out there, consumers are on their phones all the time. Consumers are searching for stuff all the time, whether it be restaurants, whether it be, shopping, right? People are just going online, to find stuff, check for reviews with the hotels. If I'm traveling, I just kind of keep going online. And same thing, consumers want convenience today. We want speed and we want convenience. So, we have to just kind of understand that and recognize it in the salon industry as well. And that means customers want the ability to book their appointments online, especially if I'm a returning customer and I'm just coming back, for the same thing. It's so much easier for me to just go, I know my schedule. I can look and see what's compatible, click it. I'm doing it with other industries. I'm doing it to book my restaurant appointment. I'm doing it to book so many different appointments in other industries. It's just something that consumers want. So if you're not providing that service, then you're potentially losing customers who are choosing to go to another salon or another stylist simply because of that. So that can be really, really critical. And then, the pre-consult, if you're able to do that in a digital manner and incorporate, we'll delve in a little bit deeper what it can look like, but it's just a really great way to differentiate yourself, utilize technology and show that you're, a little bit more modern. And that can help to elevate the experience that your guest is having with you. It's not just about what happens inside your salon when they come for that visit from 45 minutes to a couple hours. It's really how you connect with them, you know all all the time, the whole 6 to 8 week visit cycle. You need to have connections with them pre-visit, during the visit, and then post-visit to have a full experience that they feel connected to you. And now you can utilize digital and technology to do that.
Okay, great. That was awesome. Okay, so one thing I want to say before we dig into any deeper, I just had a conversation, and I also read this article in the Harvard Business Review, and they were talking about how customers, the way they make decisions about how to spend their money, and we're talking about mostly newer customers and customers who haven't been coming to you for years. So this applies to them too, but it applies even more to this group of people. And they said that when a customer is deciding what business to go to with discretionary income, we're not talking about like grocery store, something like that, but like going out for something that is not necessarily as much of a commodity, and they will weigh their options. So they're going to look at the different, say they do a little research, they might take the top 3 people, they'll search through their digital space, and so like if you can't get the person in the door in the first place because your links don't work, or your communication is like requires a lot of back and forth or whatever it is, that could be a turnoff from day one. Now, and then you lose the person. So but now something that was in this, also was in this article, was, and actually part of this conversation I just had actually with Shelby Betancourt, who has the Healthy Wealthy podcast. I was just a guest on her show before interviewing you, and she brought it up too, and she said it's called, in the restaurant industry, the rule of four. And so the whole concept is, every single time a customer comes, their loyalty increases. So it makes sense what you're saying, like this process to get into the salon needs to be a positive experience, because that could be the reason that they just stop coming back to you before they become like your person who's used to the process. And like, that's a very big different customer. So anyway, so now that we've said that, online booking, the biggest problem in communicating with stylists and even myself is like, we don't know like which platform to use. We're not going to get into the names of platforms. You all can do your own research, and we'd love for you to leave a comment below on your favorite booking platform. We'd love to hear it and share why. So, like, what is your favorite and why? And the why is what we're going to talk about. Like, what functionality do these platforms have, and what should they have, or what should we be looking out for? So, like, as we're talking about this, what are the functionalities that, like, what is this conversation, or how should we be doing this research when we're analyzing what platform to use?
Yeah, that's such an important point that you bring up there, because it's not there's I could probably list 20 different booking platforms to you right now. So it's not as though there's one that's the best and everything else sucks. It really is dependent on what you need, what you want to use it for, what functions you need. And sometimes people just blindly are just getting a recommendation, say, oh, we use this and we like it, so you say, okay, that must be good for me, but it may not be good for you. And an actual salon that has 30 stylists, maybe two locations, versus a salon that has five stylists and four estheticians and two massage therapists, versus an independent suite owner and operator. The needs are going to be very different, and it's very important that you understand what your needs are before you start doing the research, right? So that's just a starting point. Now, some of the things that you might want to look at that may or may be more or less important to you are the synchronization of the calendars, right? That's just a basic thing, but you want to make sure that it syncs, because you need to be able to make sure that you keep that calendar up to date all the time, right? So that you don't have any mix-ups where the customer sees something that's available, but then actually technically you're not available. So
Mm.
you need to have a calendar system on your own. Some people use Google Calendar through Gmail. Some people use their Apple Calendar. Whatever it is that you're using, you want to make sure that there's ease of synchronizing, so that you can just update your personal calendar, keep the blocks open, and allow that to happen naturally. That's kind of a basic one, but it's an important starting point. You want to have, if you're a salon that has multiple service providers, you want to make sure that the consumer can come in and can select either services, right, that they're interested in, and then see different stylists or different estheticians at different price points for that one service. Or potentially they could come in right away and say, you know what, I want to book my appointment with Robert. And because I'm just kind of coming back, you want to make sure that it's easy for the consumer, right, to come in and find what they're looking for. And there's really those two scenarios. Either I'm a returning customer and I just know exactly what I want, so I want to get in there quickly and book it and be out. Or I'm kind of newer and it's like, I want to get a balayage, but I'm not totally sure yet. So then I can start searching by service, and then I can see the different options of stylists and pricing and whatnot. So that would be important. Then I would look at things like automation, right? Because with online booking, you need to make sure there's a solid system of communication, both pre-appointment and post-appointment, that happen with the guest. And you definitely want appointment reminders. That's a no-brainer. And you might want to check, I've heard that some systems only allow you to have a reminder 48 hours before and there's nothing else. You can't modify, you can't change that. Whereas other ones allow you to set the timing of the reminder the way that you want it to. So that's something that you have to consider what's important. The other thing pre-appointment is some of the systems will allow you to actually have appointment confirmations where you send a message to the guest and they actually have to respond to confirm their appointment, right? So when we talk about no-shows, and everybody's, knows that the past couple of years there's been a rise of no-shows and cancellations, and that's been a big source of frustration for our industry. Having appointment confirmations is an excellent way to help reduce the number of no-shows and cancellations, because the customer has not only been reminded, but they've had to click to confirm, their appointment within, 24, 48 hours, whatever the time frame that you might have. So that's something that you might want to consider, whether that's important to you. Then I would say post appointment, you may want to look at a system that's going to send an automatic message, out to the guest, potentially right away with the date of their next appointment. If they, let's say they booked it with you while you were in the salon, you kind of still went on the phone and booked it. You want to make sure that it sends them a message right away so that it can go into their calendar, right? And you might want a message that goes out to, ask them to write a review, right? So some of these systems, it'll, after the appointment, you can schedule it to go out, the same day or one day afterwards or 2 days afterwards, to, ask them to write you a review, so you can kind of keep boosting up the number of reviews that you get, which hopefully everybody recognizes is super, super important for your business. So those are some of the key elements that I would say that you would want to, look at. Some systems probably have, even more services attached to them that, might be able to send out, email blasts. Maybe a high-end system, which would cost more, might be able to find holes in your schedule and send out a blast to people saying, hey, there's an opening tomorrow at 4 p.m. The system might be able to see that and do that automatically to help you fill gaps in your calendar. That would probably be like a bit of a next level option. Might be a little bit more expensive, but something for you to consider that might be worthwhile.
So real quick, let's. I want to talk about the booking, like the online booking system. The big. We talked in the last episode that we had you on last time we had you on the show, and my own experience as is that there's a concern over the clients booking the wrong appointments. So what could you say to that, like to defend still moving forward to online booking in spite of that, or how would you deal with that?
I would say that most people who are having that argument are looking at it in a very black and white manner. It's like, oh, you know what? My clients don't know how to book, therefore it's not going to work. Black or white. I think it's important to look at the gray zones. And yes, there might be some customers that are not able to figure out the right timing because they have a complicated appointment, and that's okay. But there might be 50%, 60%, 70%, maybe it's only 40%, who knows, of customers that are coming back regularly for the same service over and over again. And it's relatively easy for both them and for you to know what time is available. So you don't have to not have online booking for 100% of your customers because 20% of them have a difficult, service that's a little bit more complicated. You don't have to list all of your services in there. You can list the ones that are easy to book, right? That cuts are much simpler to manage. Some color services are still very simple to manage. And then you could leave out certain ones and say these ones require a consultation, right? So it could be listed, but you can't actually book, and it says this one requires a consultation. So that's something that I would recommend that you really think about. You don't have to be all in or all out. You Consumers want online booking experience, and it's okay that some consumers with more complicated are going to be asked to kind of fill out a form or do an in-person consultation the first time. That's okay, but don't prevent yourself from being part of a really important technology that consumers want just because you're thinking about the small percentage where it doesn't work.
Well, I was also thinking like, and to add to what you're saying here is, um, on functionality when you're shopping. I guess now that I'm having this conversation, something that I would want to look for is the process to, like, when you say there's a drop down menu for services and they pick a service, say I'm just touching up my roots or I'm just getting a haircut. Well, I'm gonna need to know if they want to change their color or they want to change their haircut. That might require 15 extra minutes or something like that. Maybe a little more time with the consultation. And I think it'd be really awesome if there was a feature that said, that would ask when they're booking their appointment, are you making any changes? And if they are, then it would switch them over to a, you need a consultation, you need to communicate with a stylist first, because I would be worried that if someone would be like, "Oh, I'm just getting roots done," and they have red hair, but then they're like, I want to become like an Oliver blonde," and in their mind, they're thinking that's I just put blonde on top of red, and it's like, boom, no problem, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's literally not how it works, and now I can't do your hair. Um, so I would definitely want to make sure that the customer is asked at least once, if not twice, if they plan on making any changes. Okay, so now this all boils down to the pre-consult, and so my burning question that I wanted to actually ask you the last episode, and now I get to ask you because we're digging into it. What? Yeah, I I talked to a number of suite owners. I have some friends who own suites, and they every new client they consult with beforehand, like every single one, like no, and I'm like, how the heck do you have time for that? Like, and then so I've heard people saying you should book the time on your calendar and do it during the day, and it's like, well, what do I charge them for that? And do you have could you talk on this specific thing, like the time that it's going to take me? One could argue that I'm going to it's going to benefit me because I'm going to have like all the proper time and I'm going to be prepared. Um, but as a stylist who's literally never done that and has customers come in, and I'll work it out. I'll figure it out. If maybe I can do part of what they're asking for, because when they book the appointment, it didn't get booked with enough time. We'll figure out something to get them closer to their goal. But if I pre-consult with them, I can have make sure I have the time to do it all in one visit, which I'm pretty sure that would be the preference of the customer looking for to make some change or a new person. Anyway, I'm also one don't know that I wanna, like, I got a lot of time, like, I don't have much time outside of the salon, so if I was gonna do these, it would have to be during the day, and they'd have to book it, otherwise, I don't think I could do this, like, running the show, and we have events, and I teach classes, and, like, it's just not in my I don't have the time, it's just not it doesn't exist. I could take it away, from my book, but it would require time that I would spend working on paying customers. So then the question of whether I charge for this or not. So now that I've laid all that out there, would you respond to that? Because I've definitely, this is a very common thing that I hear when it comes to pre-consults.
Great question. Here's my initial take on it is I wouldn't suggest that a stylist increase the total amount of time that they're dedicating to one particular client, right? So look at it in today's world. If you are doing a consultation with that client and it just so happens that it's a few minutes right before their actual appointment, right? They come in and you just kind of spend a few minutes going through some stuff. Now if you're just doing that in like literally like 2 3 minutes and that's enough for you and it's working and you're not having any issues, then you know what, no big deal. You can probably kind of continue on like that. If you wanted to elevate, the experience for that guest, I would just say, if you are a stylist that, all of a sudden you find yourself with a cancellation and it's Wednesday at 3 o'clock, And now you've got, an hour or an hour and a half that just kind of opened up in your schedule, and you're sitting there in the salon rather than, just going into the back room and, flipping through social media or whatever. You could use that time, right, that's kind of been gifted to you, look ahead in your calendar and just sort of reach out to a couple of clients that are on your books for the, sometime over the next several days, and just message. You might not get a message back, but you could at least sort of say, hey, you know what, I saw that you're coming in on Friday, super excited to see you, just wanted to check in if you're thinking about doing anything different, this time. If so, let me know. You know what, here's a link to my Instagram if you want to see some of, my latest inspirations. You can at least have that, which it may not.
I love that, by the way. I That never even crossed my mind. It's like,
Yeah, it may
that's
not
so
turn
good. I love it.
it may not turn into an actual full consultation, but at the very least, you're showing the customer that you're being proactive, you're thinking about them, you're excited to see them.
Totally.
That just makes them a little bit excited, and then maybe they will send you something back and say, yeah, I was just thinking of a simple root touch up, my pink highlights, and I just want to go blonde, no big deal, right? And then you can be like, whoa.
Yeah,
And because if they just show up in your salon and all of a sudden they want to do something, they're expecting it to happen today, and in that first discovery, in the first couple of minutes, you're like, oh, actually, honey, that's not going to work. That's going to require 2 or 3 appointments. That could set up some disappointment
totally.
on the spot. So that's where I would say, you know what, don't. But if you are doing consultations today and you're booking sort of like 15 minutes maybe, before your appointment and doing actual consultations, you could then transfer that and do it online beforehand. I think it would reduce the amount of disappointment or unexpected things that can occur on the spot. And you can probably adjust your schedule to actually save yourself time by doing those consultations in, sort of downtime, and therefore having more time during the day, where maybe if you're doing cutting out 15-minute consultations like 4 times out of your day, you could actually squeeze in an extra haircut appointment in there during the day, and make revenue. So that's
Yeah,
where I
no, that's all really good points. Or you could even like allot certain times of the day. Like maybe you start at 10, but like for me, I try to get into work at least 30 minutes early to like have coffee and set up my space. So like I could go in 15 minutes early and I could do open myself up to like one of those consults. And this is a great conversation. So what about charging for them? What is your opinion and what is your feelings about that?
mm, I mean, again, I look at what are you doing today. If you're not charging for consultations today, then I wouldn't all of a sudden, start charging for, digital consultations tomorrow. But if you're not doing, you know, regular consultations, and you're just doing, a couple of minutes before and going, and now you maybe start introducing it as an option to customers. If you'd like to have, a 15-minute consultation where we talk about, you know, different color options based on your skin tone, eye color, like I can, you can kind of build it up as like a really added value service to them, then you could potentially set it up as an option for people to book with an actual price point next to it, and see if people go for it or not, right?
What I heard was, and I know we got to wrap it up here. What I've heard someone say is charge $50, and then if they book the appointment, you take it off of the appointment. So that way, if you spend your time and then they decide to cancel or they don't come in, then you didn't waste your time with somebody. As we wrap it up, do you have an opinion on that or perspective at least?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good idea. I think you have to sort of trial and error some of these things, right?
Yeah.
Because you'll see what the reaction is. It's not going to be a one solution that's going to like just automatically work for everybody. Some clients might not like that because they're like, "Well, wait a second, now I'm kind of paying more, and I'm not going to use this thing anyways." And um, so you might have to, test it out. I would always, have the conversation, build a strategy behind it, right? Explain the why, what's in it for them, always super important, and then start having some conversations with some of your customers saying, you know what, I'm thinking about offering this new a virtual consultation where you would get this and you would get this, like focus on the benefits, what's in it for them. Is that something that you think you would be interested in? And you can kind of just start to get a sense of how your customers are feeling about it, and if it's something you do across the board or just with certain ones. I think it's really going to be a personalized approach.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I think this is a great conversation, and I definitely think anybody that's been thinking about this, I definitely believe this is a great jump off point for anybody that's in that position. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And is there anything that you'd like to sign off with? Any piece of advice or thoughts?
Hey, just I think we need to everybody needs to put themselves in a positive mindset. I'm a big mindset person overall, and I started off today's show just by saying, today's a great day to be alive. And I think sometimes we need to just step back when, we're having a bad day and things are going wrong, and just take a deep breath and realize, what, big picture, things are actually, pretty good. We have it pretty good compared to a lot of people in this world. And if you can kind of just take that moment to have some appreciation and gratitude for where you are, what you're doing, it's actually going to allow you to bring your better energy forward, to serve your customers, to be a better teammate and team member around you, and also partner in your social, personal life. And I think those moments are really important for us to hold on to, and so that's what I would leave people with today. That we don't always get caught up in the nitty gritty frustrations of the daily grind.
Awesome. All right. Well, and if anybody would like to speak with Scott more or learn a bit more about him, you can check the description below. There will be links and information for that. This was a pleasure, Scott. So I look forward to watching what you're doing with the industry, and maybe coming back on and checking back in at a later date and talking about other topics.
Yeah, I'd love that. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care, and I'll see you next time.